Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to step in on behalf of Mayor Walsh today, Sharon Owens, Deputy Mayor of the City of Syracuse, to start the August 28th JSCB meeting. First, want to start by an official congratulations to Pam.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, you're going to be amazing and looking forward to working with you.
Me too. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
We will start with the acceptance of the July 24th minutes. Everyone received a copy? Yes.
So moved.
Entertain a second. It has been moved and properly second. Any abstentions? Any objections? Hearing none, we'll call that item approved. Hey, Steve. Agenda item 2, report of the secretary.
Yes, good morning, Deputy Mayor. Good morning, board members, and welcome back, President Hudson.
Yes. I saw her yesterday, that's why I didn't say that today.
Just a quick update today. The PLA feasibility study is continuing. We're making progress, and I hope to have some material to bring to the board next September's board meeting. In addition, at the September board meeting, we'll have Raymond James present an update of their financial plan, which is a component of the overall comprehensive plan. They're kind of two separate items, so today we'll hear from the program manager about the comprehensive plan, more about the buildings, et cetera, and then the finances at the next board meeting in September.
Awesome.
And thank you, that completes my report.
We need a motion for your report.
No, thank
No,
you, just
okay.
the report, yeah.
All right. Item 3 on the agenda, eagerly awaiting the preview of the Phase 3 comprehensive plan from the program manager.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
I'm looking to set this, but I'm like, it's not there anymore. So we got a little leaner with the podium. So no worries. So good morning. I just want to provide an update. What we've been working on here for the past several months, putting together about 5 months here. We've been putting together the comprehensive plan, which is a total picture of what are we doing, where are we doing it, and how are we doing it, and how are we financing it. And as Joe mentioned, the deeper dive on the financial plan can come. I think at your next meeting between Raymond James and fiscal advisors in terms of updating you in more detail on that. So, but I will touch on that. So the comprehensive plan is fundamentally made up. There's 8 components to it. It's a table of contents. So our presentation this morning kind of mirrors those 8 sections of that of the comp plan. So I'm going to kind of give you a high level flyover of what the contents are there and some bullet points related to that. So that hopefully it'll give you, because the full report, including the financial section, is 200 plus pages. So hoping to kind of give you a little bit of a condensed version of that today.
Thank you.
And would ask that you, if you have a question as I go along, please I'd rather ask it in real time and be able to answer that for you. So the 8 components that we talked about, I mean, overall the goal of the program is that we're really trying to renovate spaces and to give you better alignment with program needs, both now and in the future, so that the buildings are equipped with that as we go forward. And fundamentally, again, improve how the building functions. An overarching theme is keep the water out, right? So between windows and roofs and masonry and doors and anything on your envelope, that we're preserving your buildings, because many of these need that. And also being mindful that as we're doing so, on some of your buildings you receive the double MCA. So that means in part of receipt of that double MCA means we don't go back to those buildings for 10 years. So we want to be mindful of what we're doing there. So we want to kind of balance that between making the program improvements, but at the same time making sure that you are being good stewards of your buildings, and that we're going to be in a position that they will go 10 more years until we need another major project on them. So and obviously safety and security, we're always mindful of that. And then our other big goal is to try and make this project as aidable as possible. The district receives 98% aid ratio is what you get on the project. So 98 cents of every dollar of eligible work, you receive reimbursement back from the state. So we just want to be very mindful as we develop scope and program that those scopes are eligible for aid in terms of SED, in terms of the ISR. We had really good success on the last one. I think we had more aidable expenses on the last one than you have in the previous two. So, I'm sorry, in the previous one. So we want to just make sure that we take our lessons learned from that and continue to be making sure that we're submitting changes to the state and we're getting those approved in concert with the project as we go forward. So, end of the day, we make the project as aidable as we possibly can for you. And then the history of it, I think everyone here is keenly aware of where we are. So we're in the third phase. So we've, been at this for, not us, but a lot of your team have been at this for a long time, and going forward. So we look to build on some of our lessons learned from the previous and incorporate those as we go forward. So, jump me forward.
2006 was the
Yeah,
first year.
yeah. So it's 20 years almost.
Time flies.
20 years, yeah. So the next piece was just approvals and oversight. We do have approvals and oversight that are identified in the legislation. So just kind of, we presented the same presentation to the school board, the city school board, on Monday evening. So that's a step. And then today we're bringing it to your team here for approval. And then following that, our anticipated, predicated on approvals of both of those, our anticipation is that the comp plan we would go in October. We would submit that to both the state ed and New York State Comptroller's office for their approval. And then the hope is that, and the target is, and our schedule has kind of been predicated on the fact that we will receive approval from both of those entities by December. So, and as I mentioned to you, I think in a previous meeting, that OSC approval, the SED one, we feel we've had continuous dialogue. We meet with them monthly, and I feel like we're in tune with them, and they're in tune with that deadline. And as I had mentioned previously, we may look and ask for some assistance in making sure we can keep the comptroller's office on that same trajectory to get that back by December. While we're doing that, we are also going to be in parallel working on procurement of AE services and CM services. And our anticipation is that we would have the RFP for those services to the board here for the 25th meeting, so that you would be able to see the architectural and the construction management RFPs for those services. And our hope is that we bring those along, and we're in a position by the time we get to December that we have analyzed those, we've interviewed, and we're in a position that we're just, once we have comptroller's approval, we'd be able to award and then start design in the first quarter. So that's the plan there. You can, you jump there. Sean's already pushing me ahead. He's got me on the next one already. Another requirement of the legislation is that we have public input. So we've conducted a total of 5 meetings. One was virtual. The other 4 were all in person. And the locations are identified on here where we had those in the different buildings. And so we received a little bit of feedback on those. We've captured that. Going forward, we also recorded all of those meetings and the questions that were asked so that we have those for record as well. And then that's not the end of that public input. It really was kind of the beginning of the input, because much of what we presented is, what is a comp plan? What are we doing? Why are we doing it? We will have another round once the architects are on board. The state requires us to go 3 times to them for a schematic design submission, which is like 20% drawings. And then they'll require us to go back at DD and then back at CD. So during each of those, we're also going to be, as we progress the design, that'll get presented at each of the buildings to students, staff, faculty, to explain what we're doing and to get input. And I think at that point, that input will be more project specific in terms of what are we doing in the building itself. So you can jump me ahead. So schedule and phasing, I'm gonna let Sean grab the mic here for a minute and talk to you a little bit about some of the concepts for how we put the schedule and the phasing together.
So we developed the phasing and the schedule by breaking into 4 phases. Phase A will have 3 buildings in it. Phase B will have 3 buildings. Phase C and D will consist of 2 buildings. And as we start like the design process for the Phase A buildings, and when we get into construction, that's when we'll start the design process for B. So the cycle will kind of repeat itself through the project. Some of the goals when we were putting together the schedule with district staff and JSCB staff was to minimize the impact on the buildings and to the students in the learning environment. So we do have 2 swing schools that we're going to utilize. And then the high schools will be phased renovations, where we'll have to work with the design team and the CM to carve out work scopes to continue.
My question too.
Yep. Levy and Shea.
Levy and Shay.
That's kind of a broad overview of the schedule and phasing. On the next slide here, we've and provided in the back of your packet, probably a little bit more legible. Just a one-page summary here that kind of outlines when we anticipate starting each of the phases and then the buildings within that phase. You can see kind of the call out there that we anticipate construction starting third quarter of '27, and that would be for the first 3 buildings, Webster, Seymour, Nottingham. Nottingham runs a little bit longer because we needed really to try and capture 3 summers to get the volume of work done. And then once the first 2 swing schools are completed in summer of '29, we'll move the kids back into their buildings and then utilize those 2 swing schools for the next group of buildings.
Can I make a comment? I said something similar to this at the school board meeting on Monday, but this phase started in 2023, and it's supposed to be a 10-year phase, and it's already going to be a 12-year phase. And it is frustrating to me that we need to budget for renovations that are, Roberts and Henniger's renovations aren't going to start until 2031, and the amounts, the 35 million and the 55 million, that money is just not going to go as far as it goes today, or if we were in a 10-year project instead of a 12-year project. And I understand that the constraints that we have are set by the state, and we're waiting on the state to get stuff approved, so that's why we're behind to begin with. But the entire structure of this project, I think, really kind of is not helpful for the kids that go to schools at the schools at the end of the phase. I wonder. I think that as a board, as a district, as a city, in conjunction with the work that we're doing right now, we also need to be looking about how this can be structured in the future so we are serving our kids in the most effective way possible, and that money isn't being wasted because the money just simply isn't going to go as far in the latter buildings. Even in the buildings that we start first in '27, the money that was approved in '23 is simply not going to go as far, and we're not going to be able to renovate as much as we want to. And the kids really need these renovations. So my hope would be, this is not, I'm not trying to lay blame anywhere. Turner doesn't have anything to do with this, but coming up with a plan so we can address it, so we can be more effectively serving our kids while we're doing this process, I think might be something that we should think about.
Any questions on schedule phasing?
You mentioned briefly, Sean, just that the philosophy on this was that Sean said it quickly, but we did 3 summers for the high schools because of that phase. And that for the elementaries and the middles, we have 2 summers. So that schedule was kind of was predicated on that, because we want to make sure that we've got enough time in there for that. And the swing space will be really helpful, because obviously working on an unoccupied building translates to a lot more efficiencies at a few different levels than trying to do a phase. Just wanted to point that out.
To the commissioner's point, though, as we get to the last phases, particularly phase D, the scope is being developed now for that phase, or it will be developed as you get closer to the phase?
Our procurement of AE services kind of
Okay.
mirrors that same trajectory as we move forward. So, you know, you're gonna, the first round of procurement will be bringing architects on for those first three
Yep.
buildings as phase A. And then we do that again. So yes, scope will be developed as we get there. I think, to your point, we have to factor escalation in as a factor as we get there, right? Because by the time we get to the end of this, or 8 years from now when we're procuring that, yes, we do have to factor that in. So does that erode the amount you can do with it? Yes, it does. It affects it, so, and just.
Go ahead, finish that, and then I have.
No, no, I say, and then that's always a perpetually a little thing that we're trying to, you know, do we use 2% for that? Do we use 3% for that? I mean, COVID kind of took us off the charts for a while in terms of what we were doing for commodities and paying for stuff. So, but we look at that and we factor it in. And then obviously if as we get closer to the bid, we can adjust that to that. And then to which point we will identify alternates as well. So that always in the event that if the bids come in and surprise us either up or down, we have an opportunity to put some work back in. So we will design some of that work in parallel with the base work so that we have the ability to do that. So that does help us a little bit there with that. And having those identified is important because the state also wants, they have some criteria for which what we can do is change orders, you know, and by identifying alternates that helps us a little bit because that work is already approved. And we're not constrained by the value of that work because normally if it's over a certain threshold, we would have to go out and get competitive bids again. So that doesn't solve the bigger issue, I understand that. So, but we have a couple of little things that we will do. Yes, sir.
And I should know this because I've been on all three of these CP committees, decades, child when I was on the first one. Is there a structure to go back to the state to raise the ante? Say, hey, time and inflation has damaged us. Can we go back and hit them up for more money?
Now,
In the future, 10 years from now, 8 years from now,
I mean, I think the nature of the legislation that you got, right, does do that. So I would say there's an avenue for it, yeah. So just have to get some sponsorship and go from there. But yes, there is opportunity.
I'm not trying to stretch this out, but there's 2 different points in here where you're in 8 schools at the same time. And we know from the past that's been a challenge.
Yeah, and understand that total bar, because we had to roll that up to get that to a page. So there's some detail there that you're not seeing. So some of that there is work on the front end that we've factored for submittals, for procurement and submittals. And on the back end, there's closeout that's been factored in there
Punch
as well.
list, okay.
So to say, but you're absolutely right, there are, if you drew a line through some of those, you would pick that up. But it won't be the same level of intensity across the board on all. Some of those might be in closeout and the others might be in procurement at the front end or submittal. But yeah, it's just we wanted to give you a single page to give you context in totality, but obviously there's a lot into that. What is that if you explode it? It's like 10 pages.
Yeah, 15.
So there's some detail within there, which we'd be happy to take a deeper dive on any of that if you want us to.
Within the comprehensive plan, there's a 2-page schedule that provides a little bit more detail where you can see the phases within each building, like procurement, design, construction, closeout. So that,
That's in the comp plan. Yeah, okay.
Also, given everything going on in our community now and in the future, right alongside this construction, have you really been giving some thought to the pool of contractors, the pool of GCs, the pool of labor, et cetera?
Yeah, I think about it frequently. You know, it's a challenge larger than us, right? Just given the market and what's happening here.
It's a good problem, but it is a problem.
It is a good problem, but it's growing pains, right?
Yeah.
Like anything else. So, yeah, I think I don't have a single answer to that. I think a lot of that is early and often in terms of marketing what we're doing, getting out there, letting contractors understand what's coming, what are we doing. Same thing with architects and design So I think some of that is having dialogues, communicating, explaining to them why it's an attractive job, you know, so that we can get the bids. When it comes to the actual labor force, right, it's the same thing, it's kind of gearing that up, but we're doing our best to engage young minds to move into the CTE path that's suggested. You know, you want some projects that look at, see, that's a bigger one than beyond us.
We have a pathway.
That's right, you do. You guys you've created some pathways.
My son starts it in the fall, so maybe
Right.
You could be here.
construction management, yeah.
You could be here. You want to just bump us one ahead? You want to speak on this one?
So our next slide here is taking a look at the building work scopes and building budgets. The budget strategy was to maximize building aid, as Chris talked about previously. Eligible work that's aidable. Work scopes are going to be based on the building condition survey that was conducted in 2021, program needs, facility improvements that are past their useful life. Don't have those fully defined at this point, but like we said, when architects come on, we'll go through that process some more. In establishing building budgets, we've got some estimated MCAs that we've gotten from the state. So we've set the building budget just below that MCA. The MCA will be evaluated again once architects are on board and we've got the design started. And then at final design, we'll lock in what that MCA is. So there could be the potential for an MCA to go up a little or potentially down a little. But
I may have missed this, but the double MCA is not applied to the high schools. Any
Correct.
particular reason why that is?
that, I think, I don't know why it just ended up that way in the legislation.
Okay.
I think with some of your smaller buildings, obviously they don't generate much aid, right? So by having the double MC, obviously you can do a little bit more than what you could have. Tom wants to jump in here.
Because we did projects at those buildings before, we didn't need the double MCAs. And the other issue is, like Chris said, when you do the double MCA, we don't get another MCA for 10 years. Normally, we wait till 5. So if we did a project and then we want to do another project at the high schools, we would get it in 5 years. The 10 years scares us a little because all of a sudden, we wanted to put an addition on a building. Let's say we can't get aid for 10 years. So we have to be really careful with these projects to make sure we get everything in there.
Okay. Thank you.
So in summary, I think what Sean's saying is that the budgets that you see there, we may see a little bit of movement there once we get into the project and understand exactly what we're doing. That may translate to a different MCA. We may increase that a bit. And if we can, great, the need is there and the MCA goes up a little bit, so we may see a little bit of a movement. I anticipate we'll see movement on the total building budgets as we move through SD, DB, and CD. So, but we needed something initially to break it down so that we understand the volume per building and so that we can paint that picture to designers and understand what the volume is so that they can base their views off of that. And then the financial plan, I wasn't going to go too deep in the woods there with this one because we're going to have but one of the big changes that I would note, and I'm sure that Raymond James will highlight that as we go forward, but previously we did not have the ability to use bands. We were doing permanent financing in pretty large amounts, which resulted in capitalized interest. So in this round, we are going to be able to incorporate the use of bands, which is great because it'll help us with cash flow. It'll help reduce some of your capitalized interest costs that are coming through there. And the whole plan is kind of predicated on 4 borrowings, and we're trying to align that so that we align the borrowing and the permanent financing to be in concert with state aid so that we kind of keep that smooth in terms of getting borrowing and then getting aid back to reimburse that as we go forward. So those are the biggies. And then in terms of the procurement and diversification plan, the procurement, we're going to follow the city's requirements for the procurement of professional services and bids. So we'll be working with the city's group there to go through that on procurement. And then in terms of the diversification plan, largely the same. Couple changes that I'd point out. We are now, for the MWBE participation, we're at 18% for minority and 12% for women, so it mirrors the city's requirements, so it's a 30% in totality for the MWBE. Our residency remains in there, that's the 20%, and then we've added the service disability veterans business, or the SDVB, at 5%. So that's another change that has come into the diversification plan on that side. So that's kind of a flyover of, a couple hundred pages for you. Any other questions that I can answer, or any?
I think this is more so for Joe Barry, but I know that in the schedule, we are looking at the professional services starting in June of, is that June? Boy, June of 25. Will our internal team be doing the procurement requirements for that?
Yes, as we
Okay.
did for the program manager
Okay.
and the ICO. So
Okay.
we'll be following that, and
And then we'll work towards the ICO.
yes.
Okay.
That'll be scheduled at the point. Fortunately, we don't need them at the moment with
Because
our
we need the
internal.
scopes,
We have internal
exactly.
capacity, and we're
Okay.
not there yet. And of course, we also have OpenGov we've implemented, which will hopefully make the RFP process go smoother, more efficient.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I would, quick comment, Commissioner Cardano, Karen, Cordano. Okay. Used to calling you Karen. So I want
Karen's fine.
raised an excellent question. It reminded me why we're here. The JACB was created by the state for this city and the other big cities because all the big cities in New York live under the constitutional debt limit. So we're constrained about, the city can't issue $300 million in bonds at any one time. So as Steve questioned, the path forward to adjust that would be to go back to the state legislature. And I believe the school district has kind of a process through the Big Five Association to reach out to them, and something to keep in mind for the future.
Thanks, Joe. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have one resolution today, making our monthly payments.
Resolution number 7, 2025, to authorize monthly payments to all JSB contractors, including the PM, at a cost not to exceed $68,149.70. And we have, in accordance with the attachment Exhibit A.
At the very end there, yep.
Yep. Are there any questions? Charles, you have anything? No? Motion? Second?
Second.
Any abstentions, any objections? Item is approved.
Thank you.
Any other business?
I do not believe so.
All righty, a motion to adjourn. So moved. Second? Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.